Discover over 100 episodes of Bartholomew Town on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Bartholomew Town Podcast.
Welcome in to another edition of the Bartholomew Town Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Bartholomew. On today's episode, a look into the usage and regulation of CBD in Rhode Island with a roundtable panel and a word from the DBR. Now, CBD has emerged really as a mainstream element in the last few months, it seems. These last months in Rhode Island, you see it at Dave's Marketplace now. At CVS, they've announced they're going to begin selling it there. And, of course, you also see it at convenience stores, gas stations, and boutiques. So all over the spectrum as far as where this product is being retailed and how it's being manufactured in Rhode Island, all sorts of questions about its legality. Now, CBD, it comes from hemp, meaning it's derived from cannabis. And here in Rhode Island, as of these last days, recreational marijuana will not go forth in this year's budget. The medical marijuana program has expanded. In fact, there's going to be 6 more vertically integrated medical marijuana businesses licensed in the state at an increased fee, but still not a ton of clarity on how CBD is going to be treated. And I think the panel discussion yielded some very important questions, and it sort of exposes the day in and day out aspects of this really industry, this sub-industry of cannabis that is now making its way well into the mainstream in Rhode Island. So after the panel discussion, you'll also hear from Norman Birnbaum from the Department of Business Regulation in Rhode Island. He's the cannabis guy here in Rhody in terms of government appointees. So we'll hear from kind of a multitude of perspectives, working out what should the regulatory framework be for this, and how does it benefit patients, how does it benefit the state, how does it benefit people who are manufacturing, retailing this product, and how about taxation? What sort of impact will that have on both people who are using and retailing the product, but of course also on the state government? So a lot of questions there. And interestingly enough, on the federal level, the House passed an amendment last week. This comes from the Boston Globe, June 20th, pushing the FDA to regulate CBD. So this is a hot button issue. It's going to stretch way past Rhode Island. So I wonder if Rhode Island can actually be ahead of the curve in some way on this. We'll find out. Lots to get to, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But over the weekend, many of you listeners probably are well aware of this by now, but the great Jim Taricani passed away at the age of 69. He, of course, for the listeners, you probably know this, he's on the Mount Rushmore for me of just greats. I mean, I put him up there with any musician, any figure that's impacted me in terms of influence on a creative level, on just a general authenticity level. I mean, here's a guy who is willing to go to jail for his beliefs, for his value of the First Amendment, of the journalist-source relationship. And I'm just so fortunate to have, in these last few months, have had the opportunity to connect with Jim. And, of course, the podcast interview that I did with him, I think it's the last interview he had done, certainly long form. And I would encourage all of you out there to go ahead and give that a listen and explore as much as you can. Channel 10's been putting out some great recaps, and we'll have more for you here on this program on the legacy of Jim Taricani as the weeks move along here. But Jim Taricani passed away at the age of 69, the legendary, to me, all-time great investigative reporter, also musician, military vet. A salute to Jim Taricani. I don't think there's been a single reporter that I've had on this program, either on air or behind, off the mic, that hasn't cited Taricani as a major influence and also a mentor, even at competing stations. And, hey, an all-time great Rhode Islander, an all-time great journalist, and just an all-around great guy, and an absolutely tremendous mentor. So, Jim Taricani, thanks for all you've done for all of us. And, hey, we'll look up to the stars and we'll see you there. Support for Bartholomew Town comes from High Hope, located at 38 Broadway in downtown Newport, Rhode Island. Discover more at highhoperi.com. Okay, we'll get you to our CBD panel now, featuring Kim Canning. Now, she's an occupational therapist and wellness advocate who says CBD has not only worked for her patients, but also for her personally following a traumatic brain injury. Also on the panel is Ben Morgan Dillon. Now, he's the proprietor of Acadia Farms, whose mission statement says they're producing eco-friendly cannabis-based products that have a net positive impact on society. And also joining us with a retail perspective is Jordan Carlson of Wakefield's Tetra Hydro Club. And then following our panel discussion, we'll hear from the DBR's Norman Birnbaum. All right, so we are here today at High Hope on Broadway, downtown Newport. Special thanks to Greg for having us. I don't know where you... Woo!
Thanks, Greg.
And we have something very special for the listeners of Bartholomew Town today, a panel of cannabis experts, and we're going to discuss CBD specifically right here in Rhode Island. So let's get acquainted with our wonderful panel here, starting with the wonderful Kim Canning. What's happening, Kim?
I'm happy to be here and help support good medicine for everybody. And it's now becoming more acceptable, and people need to understand what it can do for you.
Right, and that's sort of the angle we're going to take today, is taking a look at the medicinal, agricultural aspects of cannabis in general, but specifically CBD, and how it's regulated here in Rhode Island. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of people aren't sure if this is an illegal product, and sometimes they'll go into Dave's Market and see CBD juice and be stunned. You know, I've had people come up to me and say that. And then there are others who just can't believe that this is not the medical route that we take full speed ahead here. Ben, you are the proprietor of Arcadia Farms. Give us a little background on your story.
So my name is Benjamin. I'm the founder of Arcadia Farms. I started out originally in nursing, and I've been a horticulturalist for 14 years. So I ended up just sort of combining the two passions. I started Arcadia Farms 2 years ago. We specialize in all organic, full spectrum CBD products. The legalities around CBD that you're questioning are starting to come to a head now that the FDA is starting to make some statements, and individual states are starting to release their actual recommendations for what they believe should be allowed and is going to be acceptable. But we'll see what shakes out.
Yeah, lots to be determined here. And right here in Rhode Island, just now, as in these last hours, it's become clear that cannabis will not be legalized this go around in terms of the budget. It looks like they're going to push for 3 more dispensaries, which is really inside baseball, as we all know, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. Tetra Hydro Club, Wakefield, Rhode Island, pushed some boundaries, came out strong, and now you're in operation that is kind of a multi-layered operation. I mean, you're a space, a gathering space, a venue of sorts, a cannabis-oriented venue, but you're doing a lot of educational work and development work as well. So give us a little background.
So my name is Jordan Carlson, and I represent a company called The Pharmacist and Tetra Hydro Club. And yeah, we started 6 years ago in Rhode Island, and we've just been pushing the space as far as education and awareness, and also, you know, shaking the birdcage as far as doing events that are pretty leading edge. So we're here in Rhode Island to shake it up.
Yes, and I guess it's fair to say that there's a healthy collection of people in Rhode Island who have been working on CBD for a long time, specifically, certainly cannabis in general. So where are we today? Let's go 36,000 foot view. What is CBD, and what is the legal definition of how it's classified right now? Can you answer that question, Ben?
So CBD in basis is the compound from the cannabis plant called cannabidiol. It is one of around 300 different chemical compounds that are cannabinoids within the plant. It is specifically one that is mildly psychoactive. It does have the capacity to cross the blood-brain barrier, which a lot of people don't think it does. It's just that it's much less affinity prone to bind to a CB1 receptor in the brain, unlike THC, which loves to bind to CB1 receptors. It's 100 times more affinity prone. So CBD is binding predominantly to CB2 receptors. That's why it's so helpful with physiological ailments, but is also really helpful with anxieties and things like that as well. As far as its legal stance right now, the FDA has never questioned its chemical components. It's just a matter of its legality. They have stated now that CBD will be legal in some products, but not in all products. And really right now what they're targeting to be not legal is edibles and anything with medical claims. So you can't have drinks, you can't have gummies, but you can have tinctures, you can have solves, you can have vapables.
Kim, your experience with CBD has been something that we've talked about for a while now. Full disclosure, we've known each other for years and we're close friends. But why don't you give the audience kind of just your experience in general and how this medicine has affected your life, both as a practitioner and even as someone who's utilized it?
Yes, I'd be happy to share. I'm a traumatic brain injury survivor. Because of the CB1 I was in a passenger in a car that hit a tree, and so I survived. I didn't die because the barrier protected my brain from bleeding out. I'm so blessed. So every day is a gift, and I want people to really understand. And I know for myself, as a patient, I know I can function better, and I just have no pain. I'm not in spasm from taking a hard hit like that. So that's exciting, that I don't have to live in chronic pain. That's number one. And I don't get a brain fog from it. It helps me as a patient just not be in pain and at homeostasis and feeling well, just happy and feel good. Emotionally, physically, just feel good. It's different than waking up. I'm older, and having pain when you wake up in the morning isn't how people have to live. With something very simple, like a tincture, you can be out of pain and just feel better, no matter what your ailment may be, from anxiety to chronic spasm pain, with lotions that Ben makes, salves. You don't have to do just edibles. The medicine is in the plant. It's not about THC, it's the medicinal benefits. And for my patients, I have emphysema patients who have higher endurance for taking showers and less anxiety breathing. Children, seizures, there's so many benefits, and people really need to embrace that.
Right. We've seen these firsthand here in Newport and beyond, the actual just real-time benefits of this. Again, not speaking from a medical perspective, just speaking from what your own eyes and feelings have told you over time. You and I can attest to that for sure with certain people. Let's talk about the retail aspect of this. You have confronted firsthand, being one of the first businesses doing what you're doing in Rhode Island, first operations right out front. You've encountered a bit of the system, if you will, from, police on up through state Department of Business regulation, right? Where do they sit right now, today, as far as how is the state of Rhode Island in real time regulating the cannabis industry? I mean, are they sending inspectors around, and how does that translate into the perception that CBD has?
Well, currently right now in Rhode Island, if you go buy a cheeseburger from McDonald's, the Department of Health has inspected that kitchen. They've inspected every process of it. Currently right now, if you were to go to a dispensary in Rhode Island, the Department of Health has never even walked in, stepped foot. So you have a whole plethora of CBD products that are grown in Rhode Island that are untested, unregulated, and they're trying to put a grasp on it. Meanwhile, they haven't tested for pesticides and anything else to make sure consumer safety aspects are covered. Now you have CBD, which is starting to be more broad and come from numerous states that have testing, and they have this. So now you can go online, or you can get local retail places that sell with results and testing to make sure, third-party lab tested it for contaminants and it's clean. And you can get that online with zero sales tax or any aspect like that. So now you have Rhode Island, who thought it was a great idea to regulate the CBD industry, not realizing that CBD is the cannabis industry. It's in the same exact field. Now they propose to add an 80% retail tax to the consumer for CBD products, which to me is, preposterous that you could even tax anything at an 80% rate. So then they said they settled, and they came up with 40%, which again, you have this guy, his name's Norman Birnbaum. He's the top regulator in Rhode Island. He got chewed apart by the House Finance Committee I'm pretty sure it was the House Finance Committee, when they were testifying about the budget and everything else that was coming in. They have all these new regulations for CBD that basically treat it worse than the psychoactive aspect. They're going to do originally they had planned to do recreational in Rhode Island, and they had mentioned something of like a 19% tax on the psychoactive part. Now you have something that actually benefits people health-wise, can be grown. It's not against federal regulations if it has less than 2% THC. It's basically just a regular plant like anything else. They want to come in and create all this fear around it like it's some pharmaceutical, large chemical grade, crazy shit. It's fucking tomatoes in your garden. It has huge benefits, but it doesn't need to be regulated like synthetic things that are being created. Because if I go outside and eat, lemongrass or something, even mint from my garden, and I say that it gives me medical benefits, well, the state doesn't come in and then say, well, you can't grow this in your garden, this, you can't be taking care of your health. But with CBD, they found a way to try to capture a bunch of what I call illegal revenue for the state, because they're taxing something that shouldn't be taxable. It's a medicine and it's a plant. So they're looking at the very wrong approach to it right now in Rhode Island when they see it. So
Let's speak to the farmer about this classification of agricultural versus how do you regulate this in fairness if you're the state of Rhode Island?
I work right now as a contracted consultant on hemp farms. I work with MDAR, and it's ludicrous because they have a license for you to cultivate, they have a license for you to process, they do not have a license for you to retail. So their current stance is you're allowed to grow it, you're allowed to manufacture it, but you can't sell it yet because we haven't figured out what we're going to charge you for that. So as a person who's been running a company for 2 years before that legislation even came about to have the cultivation or processing license, I've already been in business. I'm already selling to all 50 states. I have a list of clientele and wholesalers that require product on a weekly basis. I'm just supposed to now shut down my business and allow gas station CBD to continue being sold because there is no regulation there, even though I do 2-tier third-party lab testing to ensure, like you said, that it's clean and that the patient or the customer knows that they have a final cannabinoid content which actually has CBD in it. Because when we did blank testing in Massachusetts a few months ago, 50% of what was on the market did not have any CBD. And about 20 to 30% of what was on the market had less than they were actually supposed to have in there by a substantial amount.
Right.
So for a farmer, it's amazing that we finally have gotten the right to actually be able to grow it in fields. We're being very restricted on what we're allowed to use and how we're allowed to grow in the field, which is a little bit crazy considering the fact that there's such loose restriction on the rest of industrial agriculture. And like you were saying, tomatoes on the vine, like the amount of chemicals that are put on those, we're not allowed to use anything with an EPA registration number. So if it's registered with the Environmental Protection Agency as an acceptable pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, we still can't use it. We can only use 25V products, which are 100% homeopathic and organic, which I agree with anyways, but it's keeping a lot of other farmers from wanting to make that transition. And it's especially ludicrous what you were talking about, the fact that Rhode Island wants to impose this massive taxation and treat it as if it's a pharmaceutical or treat it as if it is a psychoactive, when the FDA literally just made and released a statement last week that THC below 0.3%, which is the federally legal limit, is no longer considered a scheduled substance as long as it is in CBD or hemp products. So how can they say that it is higher taxable if it was just said by the federal government to no longer even be a scheduled item, and specifically said interstate cannot mess with other interstate communication now? So you can't stop CBD products from growing through your state just because your state necessarily doesn't want CBD products. So then how does that allow Rhode Island to say that they want to treat it like it's some completely different sort of subject?
Right, which leads to the proliferation of these gas station CBDs and things like this, and
100%.
away from the expertise.
The hands of people that want to do it correctly, and you're allowing the people that don't want to do it correctly to run free because, like he was saying, there is no enforcement. There's not been a single place that I have seen or heard of that has had either a federal agent or a state agent or even just a local civilian agent come in and say, this is illegal, you're not supposed to be selling it, we're going to do something about it. Because until that does happen, you're not going to be able to get anybody to come on board and want to play legally because you're not giving them any incentive to play legally when the illegal market is thriving.
Right. The enforcement is really on the shopkeep. You know, someone like Greg here testing a product and saying, whatever, I'll take the loss and throw it off the shelf, which we've seen here at High Hope and other places as well as these, the gimmick products come through, this unregulated, now Fox-regulated arena that we're discussing.
There are shopkeepers like Greg that are willing to put in that extra legwork and are willing to really look at what needs to be looked at. But unfortunately, when you look at the majority of what's on the market still, there's not enough good people like him.
Kim, when we talk about alternative medicine, from acupuncture to any form of health and wellness, and we use that word alternative in quotes because in reality that's just playing into the system that's sort of oppressing, a lot of advancements in medicine and pain management and all that. But when we speak to that, the idea of a 40% tax on CBD products, the idea of this, loose regulatory process, what does that do to a patient and someone who could benefit from the use of CBD products on a any basis?
It makes it not affordable for people who are just like, I need to put tax on my aspirin. But it's the scale is out of control. I can understand it should be regulated, which is important for the safety of people like me who use it. And I think that it's greed. It's very greedy. People need, affordable health care. Or even, like I said, it's something you can grow in your backyard, like in the garden. So why would you tax something like that? And if you grow it yourself, it doesn't make sense. Though hopefully there'll be a positive outcome forthcoming.
It'll at least be another year. Let's talk about the optics of cannabis in Rhode Island. Puritanical roots in Rhode Island. You and I grew up in the same part of the world, Jordan, and as you know, there are people there and everywhere who are strongly anti, anything that they're unfamiliar with oftentimes. Cannabis falls into that bracket.
The Anslinger generation.
Yeah, overcoming the optics of that. You're set up on Main Street, USA, essentially, right in downtown Wakefield.
We are Main Street.
You are the good old. There's an Onion article out right now. The good old days traced back to a single weekend in 1948. You know what I mean? That's pretty much downtown Wakefield. You got the bike shop. Everyone's the family's walking down the street with ice cream. Everyone's
quintessential.
Everyone loves it, and then boom, you've got your pharmacist bus parked right there. Let's talk about that.
6 years in the making, and especially 6 years ago when the landscape was seemingly mostly criminal for everybody involved in cannabis. So we came into the neighborhood. I mean, I had a Range Rover wrapped in camouflage, and took the old movie theater. So there was this big mystical aura about what's going on there. And originally people thought we were there to be a grow. People thought we were a dispensary. And realistically, I just saw a big old building that was great and affordable. And I was like, damn, I'm going to rent this. Had no real plans for it. So instantly with that, the town started hitting me with fine after fine after fine. Like, they were charging me $500 a day for manufacturing cannabis. They were trying to come into my place and prove that I was growing there, and I just refused entry for 2.5 years. I wouldn't even allow a fire inspection. I said, this is ludicrous. You can't just demand entry into my private property because you think that I'm growing weed. It's like, you prove that I'm growing weed and come back and, sure, come inspect us. So 2 years later, they finally did every single thing possible, and they came back with the state fire marshal and the state police and basically forced us to allow them to search our building because we had a big event planned coming up. So they thought they had this nail in the coffin. They were going to get us shut down for the weekend. So they come in, state fire marshal comes in, we let them search the entire building, and they left angry at the town that the way the town worded it, that this was about to be the next station fire to me, which was a huge insult because my building has a state-of-the-art fire alarm. It's got every single multi-egress. It's probably the safest fucking building in southern Rhode Island. Now you have these people who then had to eat crow's pie and walk out of my building and tell the state and the town that my building is totally safe, and we have an occupancy rating of like 1,100 people. At that point, we weren't even exceeding 150 or 200 person events, and they were so scared. So now I got a place that's grandfathered in to sell weed. We've won our Superior Court ruling for zoning. We've beat the town at every basically, racist argument that they had coming at us because they didn't like the clientele that was coming there, and they don't realize that the clientele for medical marijuana wasn't who they thought I was. It is everybody: lawyers, police, politicians, regular people, poor folks, rich folks. Everybody uses cannabis. So when they came at me thinking that the person that I was going to be at town, I realized that this is just a small-minded town, and they're basically just simpletons to think that, they're taking over our little Main Street. Well, meanwhile, we were bringing in 600 people to some of our events after they came. We had rented 30 or 40 hotel rooms for events that we did. We bought thousands and thousands of dollars worth of local food every time we did an event. And now people started to notice that we were a resource. We didn't try to put a kitchen in. We didn't try to make ourselves vertically integrated. We wanted to be a community integrated spot where people can come, they can use our facility. And really, our facility doesn't even exist. It's just a building. The Tetrahydro Club is just a group of people who have medical cards that all just, are bound by the same mental fabric. We're just there to chill and feel normal. The building is just a building for rent. You could rent. We could have done this. You could have had a birthday party. You could throw your bachelor party there. It's just a private property for rent. So when they tried to come at me saying we're a cannabis business, I'm like, I'm a private property. This isn't even a business. I didn't even have a revenue model for the first 5 years till they legalized weed. I don't even care about making money from this spot. I care more about the equity that we're getting and building the program up. So they're trying to hit me with all these things, thinking they're going to cancel how I make my. Every way they hit me, it didn't matter because I was basically just running the place as a charity. So we just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until the point now they started recognizing us, calling us the newspaper. Then we put our name on the side of the building. We're like, here, we're on Main Street. If you want to keep writing articles about us, like we're gonna acknowledge ourselves. And now 2 years later, after the last thing that they came at us with, they tried to come at us with the Department of Health saying we can't smoke inside my private property. Meanwhile, the Department of Health is the one who issued me a license to smoke cannabis inside my private property. So every single thing that they come about is like childish, and they think that I have like these lawyers. I haven't even had to hire a lawyer for basically any of this stuff. I just know the rules. You can't treat people the way that they've been treating me.
Right. And oh, by the way, where can you smoke inside? The states run casinos, Twin River, and so forth.
Exactly.
You know, you can smoke cigarettes in there as long as you're feeding money into the state's coffers.
So we should actually go to the Twin River and smoke cannabis in there because, according to state law, wherever they can smoke cigarettes, I can smoke cannabis because there's no rules on where I can smoke cannabis. And if you even group it with tobacco, well, guess what? There's places in state-run facilities that I can smoke tobacco. So we're going to go smoke weed at Twin River.
Stay tuned. Look out for that. All right, in these final moments here, let's talk about the future. Let's talk about, it sounds like what the consensus is, if there is one here, a healthy regulatory environment that is hearing from all the different voices, from development, from practitioners to retailers, and obviously, those who would be using CBD. It sounds like that infrastructure should be in place, and that's how we would, achieve the right, quote unquote, environment for CBD in Rhode Island. Who should be at the table, in your mind, Ben, in terms of making policy surrounding CBD? Is it a medical question? Is it an industrial question? Where does that start?
Well, it's got a lot of different aspects to it. It is certainly an agricultural question. You have to have the farmers at the table because you can't be undercutting even further the local agricultural movements that we have in the East Coast. Farmers are struggling enough and they need to be given a hand up, and this could be a really solid hand up for them. The second people I would say that need to be at the table are holistic medicine specialists, herbalists, and the medical professionals. Then you need to have probably a Board of Health representative, zoning commission representative, and then possibly a Better Business representative. You need to have a really solid look at this from a alternative medicine, holistic medicine perspective, from an agricultural perspective, and then from the commerce perspective. And those really, to me, are the three major elements. And I'm sure somebody's going to find a way to work a lawyer in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, you can't help that. That's the nature of the beast for sure. It'll come down to that. In terms of lobbying, does anyone here actively lobby? Start bugging people. Who do you bug? Who are you after on this?
Everybody. Right now we have a huge campaign to remove Norman Birnbaum from the Department of Business because you've got a one-man show running the entire state who hasn't done anything to see what the local, the local people actually want from any of these programs, whether it be cannabis, hemp, or any of the retail settings that are coming with recreational. So he's in charge of friggin' 80 cultivators who each have like 40 cameras, and you got home grow. How can you have one person in charge of all that? And then right now he's also spearheading hemp, which, like you were saying earlier, the feds just basically said anything under point whatever percent THC isn't even a substance that's on any list. So anybody can grow hemp, and now Rhode Island wants to start charging farmers. They want to start doing this. Meanwhile, our recreational program didn't mention anything about social equity. We haven't mentioned any of the Rhode Islanders that are sitting in prison for growing hemp with more THC than it was allowed, which, cannabis is cannabis. Now you got a bunch of people who want to come in to capitalize on this. Not once are you hearing the real Rhode Islanders, the people who should be getting 0% interest loans from the government to start their farms.
Absolutely.
They should be able to start retail locations that sell CBD. They should be able to start laboratories that test CBD. You should be able to be a farmer on a farm and get paid a better wage than every other produce and agricultural product out there. Rhode Island is an agricultural state, and that's what won our case. You have the right to grow agriculture in this state anywhere, period. It doesn't matter what zoning says. We are an agricultural producer. That's what we were founded on. You have the right. So now you have that physical right, God-given, whoever granted it, to grow hemp and to grow even cannabis. But right now, look at Prohibition. This is Prohibition 2.0. It took 50 years after Prohibition to be able to brew your own beer at home. Meanwhile, you have all these people who are given illegal legs up. We don't need 5 Budweisers in the marijuana industry that are rich. We don't need acreage and canopy. We need thousands and thousands of well-off Rhode Islanders and micro growers and things that aren't trying to GMO our seeds and capitalize and profit off, the fact that their strains are like Phylos Bioscience and stuff. They're trying to just steal the DNA from our cannabis plants. And really, this is something that could revive Rhode Island's economy. It could revive people. It could give veterans work. It could put farmers back to work. You got dairy farms closing to put fucking solar fields up. Why aren't they putting up hemp? Why aren't they growing a product that has a way bigger value, doesn't destroy the soils, and they can be reproduced year after year on these farms? So I think who needs to be at the table is the farmers and people who know about farming, not people who wrote policy.
Conventional farming.
Yeah.
Regenerative farming, sustainable farming,
Organic.
Organic
eco-agricultural architects, people that know how to make an ecosystem match the ecosystem it's in. And traveling the world, I've seen other farmers and how people grow in the landscapes, and we don't do that here. Like we have sod and we got sun. That's the only 2 things we're growing in Rhode Island right now. And meanwhile, you have this plant that could be grown in greenhouses, supplemented year-round and outdoors, so it makes no sense that you're going to put it in the hands of one regulator in the state.
Yeah, and it's so important to mention the reparations aspect of this. Let's go. Wake up. Last question, Kim, what's the future for you? You're somebody who's been a warrior on the happiness front for many years, is someone I look up to in that sense. But it's not an easy battle. Sometimes it's like pushing the boulder up the hill, just to take any kind of approach in this world that is optimistic. You're someone I look to for that optimism, though. How do you feel about this? Do you feel like we're going to head into the 3 Budweisers are going to come along and we're going to see people put in jail for betraying the state when it comes to cannabis? Or are we going to open up and look at it from a medical perspective and start dialing the needle in here in Rhode Island?
Well, hope is on our flag for the state. So I always have that torch for hope. We all do. That's why we're here. Knowledge is power. And people need to be educated and understand and embrace health and wellness prevention. Feeling good shouldn't be against the law. From a weed that can grow anywhere in the whole world. It's a weed. They're making it more unaccessible for a person who has, medicine that they need, and now everything changes. I've had my license for 10 years, a decade, since the car accident, and it should be more accessible for everyone. The gas station thing, I don't even go there. I know it's probably poison. And no one wants poison with medicine.
Yeah, there's enough of that already.
Yeah.
So, our CBD expert panel here, a very special thanks to Greg and High Hope here on Broadway in Newport. And a lot of great stuff here today brought up and discussed. And let's hope that the decision makers that are listening to this think about the implications of this process, that it's not gambling. It's not a vice revenue generator, and it should not be bracketed into that conversation when we're talking about the budget. This has got to go into health and and human services, if anything else, right?
Exactly. People who have anxiety issues, it's full spectrum, emotional, physical, and you feel good. So why is that against the law?
Yeah. To me, I think government looks at trickle-down economics like it works, and I call cannabis trickle up economics, whereas you empower so many more smaller people who right now are maybe not even paying income taxes. You increase them and empower their ability to then pay their own wages, pay themselves, pay others. And now you have people who have income taxes, you have sales taxes, you have all these other brackets that aren't, horrible ways to give away your money. It's like, we're giving away sales tax. Why not allow all this property to be sold with sales tax? 7% on CBD.
Right.
Fine. You want to sell it like everything else, not allow us to claim it as medicine so we can't get no tax? Fine. But tax it like everything else you tax. Don't penalize me for trying to take my health into my own hands. That's what I think is just criminal.
Yeah.
Well, we need to be really careful in supporting the people that need that, because there's things like you mentioned, the Phylos Bioscience scandal right now. Things like that are the types of events that can sweep the legs out from the entire industry overnight. With a single political move, they can completely take all of our ability to run our own businesses out of our own hands, because even if we are legally allowed to grow however we want, if they own the entire genetic infrastructure, what are you allowed to grow?
Exactly.
So after having this panel discussion, I asked the DBR's Norman Birnbaum what's going on with CBD.
So, what we have already in place under the state's industrial hemp law is a license for growers to, grow industrial hemp, and then also for handlers to, handle the hemp and then manufacture and extract it. And in that case, you're really talking about CBD extraction and incorporating CBD into some type of product. The laws that we have now were based off of the previous version of the Federal Farm Bill, which talked about industrial hemp pilot programs and pilot programs for study and for research. So right now, at the state level, our law doesn't really have a license for wholesale distribution. Our law does not have a license for retail distribution of these products, because everything is supposed to be mostly for research and as a pilot program. Last October, you had a change in this federal Farm Act and the federal enabling legislation to remove the study requirements and the research requirements and say we're actually going to expand this from just a pilot program and say that states can now engage in the full commerce of CBD and industrial hemp. Really what it says is industrial hemp and industrial hemp derivatives, and those products were removed from the Controlled Substances Act federally. So what the governor has proposed to do this year is to also expand our licenses, create a license for distribution at the wholesale level, create a license for retail so people can sell industrial hemp-derived CBD products. And also, with those licenses comes a regulatory framework so that these products have to comply with applicable food safety regulations from the Department of Health and basic consumer protection in terms of packaging and labeling and different claims that are made. And so what's very important is, what we're proposing here is going to put in place a regulatory framework where businesses and entrepreneurs have the stability to and the consistency that they need to operate in this marketplace. Is going to put in place a regulatory structure where consumers can be confident that these products are, they're not snake oil, they're actually tested, they're produced in a way that's compliant with state law. But the other thing is, this change at the federal level doesn't just make these products legal. People say, CBD industrial hemp is legal now.
So what's your message then to anyone who's in an agricultural position or any kind of retail position right now? Is it that the framework for, a legit regulatory framework, I suppose, is going to be in place that protects everyone, including those who are entrepreneurs and want to get into this from a business standpoint, and those who are, kind of already on the fringes of legality, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this provides the guidance and the instruction that people need to be able to participate in this industry fully. Without these licenses that we're proposing, it's very difficult for a lot of these businesses to get bank accounts because, the banks have to do their due diligence and they need to make sure that they're, not engaged in what could be de facto money laundering because people are engaged in a, illegal activity. So, what we're proposing is going to add stability and going to help the industry and help people grow. It's going to provide a framework for people to step into. And that's really going to help everyone. We've seen this with the medical marijuana program. Of our 50 some odd licensees right now, they all have access to depository banking, right? And that's something that you don't see in a lot of other states because they have not put in place the same regulatory structures and the same type of systems to be able to, allow banks to know, yes, this is regulated and you can satisfy your federal guidance. So we're looking to take what's been successful on the medical program and put that in place with, this other version of cannabis. This is going to be far more available. You're likely going to see this at all the same types of places that you see it now in terms of convenience stores and corner stores and different, boutiques and things like that. But consumers will have the comfort of knowing that it's being done in a way that's regulated from a licensed entity, and these licensed businesses will have the luxury and protections of being able to say, I am licensed to engage in this activity and I can do so freely.
And the producers of this industrial hemp and CBD derived products in Rhode Island, the ones who are doing it now and the ones who may come, does this regulatory process benefit them, or does it kind of narrow the playing field?
No, it doesn't narrow it at all. I mean, I think that what this does is this says, now you have expanded activities. Now, if you're currently a grower or a handler, you have far more options and avenues to pursue when it comes to actually distributing your product, because we have new licensees that we didn't have before under the current statutory framework. So, I mean, if anything, this is an expansion.
And of course, the question is, as that regulatory framework is constructed, who ultimately are the winners and losers? Search Bartholomew Town Podcast on Instagram. You'll find some photos from this episode shot by T-Berg Photography in Newport, Rhode Island. If you're in the Providence metro area, I'll be airing my podcast conversation with Jim Terracani on repeat starting at 3 p.m. on Thursday on 101.1 FM WVVX Providence Community Radio. And I'll be back on Friday with a brand new podcast episode. Until then, I'm Bill Bartholomew, and we'll talk soon.
At HealthSource RI for Employers, we provide access to health insurance to more than 1,100 local businesses and nonprofits, and 96% of them renew through us every year. Maybe it's our choice of 19 different health plans, our 10 years of customizing solutions, or our one local team of dedicated experts helping employers find quality health insurance. See how our numbers stack up for you. Learn more at healthsourceri.com/employers.